Hello, I'm meteorologist Jeff Renner, and with me is Mark Schrader, who is the project director and captain of the Around the Americas program. And Mark is going to be our guest for Sound Conversations at the Aquarium. Right. We'll talk about that more a little bit later on. Mark, it seems that you are operating from a perspective different from most of us, in which we look like we're living on land near some water, but you have a very different frame of reference. What is that?
Well, I'm glad you qualified that. A lot of people think I have a very different frame of reference. Being on the ocean, the surface of our planet is 70% water. So I've been fortunate on 3 different trips to spend almost a year each time out on that water. We really ought to call this planet water instead of Earth. I mean, that's what it is. We know that that water is really onion skin thin, and therein is the odd bit of perception. The ocean is so vast, it seems like it could just, absorb everything we're doing to it, and it's done a good job of that. It's actually very, very thin, and we're taxing it. But it's very interesting to look at land from the water perspective.
In the process of going around these 2 continents, what were your major goals?
Really just that. We wanted to draw a circle around North and South America to highlight the fact that we're an island surrounded by water, and it's very simple. Everything that happens on the island affects the water around it, and everything that water does around us affects what's on the land. Provides the rain for us, it provides food for us to eat, all of those things, the big long list. But we don't really realize that. Here we are on land, everything is just fine, the water is over there, it's huge, it goes over the horizon. Well, that water is keeping us alive. That isn't taught in most schools now. Teachers are burdened with lots of other things, and we don't talk about the ocean. So our mission here was to highlight the fact that we're an island, sail that route, collect stories along the way, share those stories, and do some fairly important science along the way.
What was the biggest surprise of the things that you encountered? And you saw a lot of different things on that voyage.
We saw a lot of different things. I mean, the first big surprise, 100 years ago, roughly, was the first small boat, a boat of any kind, to make it through the Northwest Passage. And we went through, it took us about 40 days all total, but we made it through in 1 season. That was unheard of. 100 years ago, you couldn't do that. 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. So the ice is changing dramatically, and that was a big surprise. I've had the experience of being out in the mid-1980s, sailing around the world, mostly in the Southern Ocean, getting a good view of what it looked like then. The most remarkable change is how much more pollution there is now than there was then, sadly.
Having mentioned that, did you leave this when you came back into port and you completed at least the at-sea portion of this project? Did you leave with a sense of pessimism then, or some optimism?
Well, I think all of us, experienced sailors, came back feeling like the problem out there is worse than we had expected. But surprisingly, it was all the kids that came aboard along the way. This was part of an education program, primarily K through 12. A lot of kids came on the boat when we were in port. We visited schools in every port we went to. I mean, I had thousands of kids. We came back, I think, optimistic that those kids get it. They're interested in the ocean. They're interested in learning. Their teachers are helping them with it. They're going to have to solve some problems that, frankly, we're leaving them with.
Well, this is just the beginning of what is going to be a fascinating Sound Conversation. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. And that's going to be our Sound Conversation on Thursday, April 7th. I think whether you sail or are interested in the ocean, the whole issue of scientific research, climate change, and just to leave with a sense of optimism, you want to come for our Sound Conversations. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.